choices were made in that by him, and the choice to quit was made. And I'm going to give him that choice on Saturday night. I guarantee that.
It's interesting because the narrative is like that he used to quit, and a lot of people say, yeah, but he's answered that. He doesn't quit anymore.
That's fine. I think that's true. However, once a coward, always a coward. I'm not calling him a coward, but I'm saying that's...
He's going to go to sleep. Oh, my goodness. That is going to do it. This dude right here, man. Stop Charles Oliveira.
Listen, if you look like me, you would dress like this, too.
Bro, you look like Terry Crews, bro. Oh,
He knows I put him on skates last time. And this time, when I put you on skates, I'm going to leave you frozen like Elsa.
Because y'all seem to have forgot. I seem to forgot what happens when I come in there and these things get to work.
Write it down. Take a picture. I don't give a fuck. If we getting it in, when you step in there with me, ain't nothing to talk about, ain't nothing to say. It's all right here and I'm on your ass.
He might have went lip a little bit whenever he dropped it. Belal gets big. Leon goes right.
I feel like MMA is one of those sports where it's so easy to get emotionally attached to fighters that you like, you dislike, and a lot of it has to do with trash talk. I feel like for a lot of other sports, there's not as much trash talk. It's not as promoted. You have press conferences, everything. Fighters are trying to sell the fights, and because of that, you get very happy, very sad, angry, whatever, when your favorite fighter loses, when they win. And today I'm going to be going over the most satisfying victories and losses in the UFC over the past few years, getting straight into it. This is probably my number one. It's my favorite, I guess, one-round fight of all time. Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. I love this fight for so many reasons. Justin Gaethje, he's usually not a trash talker. He does somewhat trash talk. Again, he did it in this fight against Michael Chandler, against, I'm trying to think who else. I think James Vick or whatever. And in this fight, he was trash talking even before the fight was signed. When he was fighting Michael Chandler, he picked against Oliveira in like every one of his fights. He kept on calling him a quitter, which is ironic because yes, Oliveira, yes, he's tapped before. And I feel like saying Oliveira is a quitter is one of the worst narratives in the UFC. A lot of people call him a quitter just because he's tapped before. And I feel like so many fighters have tapped before. Gaethje tapped and he went to sleep, which is way more embarrassing. And Charles Oliveira, yeah, against Max Holloway, he got injured, so he just went down. I mean, he's been knocked out before. He's been submitted. It happens. The same thing has happened to Justin Gaethje, but no one calls him a quitter. And in this fight, he faced so much adversity and he still won. He got knocked down in the fight and he didn't give up. And when he knocked down Gaethje, he submitted him and he made Gaethje tap. He made him quit. Plus, there's the whole missed weight drama. I think it was in Arizona, Gaethje's home state. And Oliveira, he was up against the wall. They stole the belt from him. I really think that he did not miss weight. It was such a weird situation. And he could have just stopped the fight. He could have just said, okay, I'm not going to show up. I'm going to ruin the entire card because that card was awful. They had Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza as the co-main event. But he stepped up anyway, even though he lost his belt. He said, I'm going to give the fans what they want, even though the fans weren't rooting for him. And he goes out there, he faces adversity, he gets back up, he gets knocked down twice. One of the most entertaining one-round title fights of all time, if not the most entertaining. And it was an amazing fight, makes Gaethje quit. I think this was probably the happiest I've ever been watching a fight. This is probably my favorite fight of all time. It's not the best fight of all time. I think that's probably Yuri versus Glover, but still, this was amazing. This was just peak happiness. I was so happy to see Oliveira win. Everyone was doubting him. He was the slight favorite. You know, it wasn't like everyone was picking against him. He wasn't a massive underdog. But with the circumstances, he was kind of the underdog. And he shuts up Gaethje for so long. You know, he said, once a coward, always a coward. And he taps. One of the best moments in the sport, in my opinion. I absolutely love this fight. Moving on, Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane. This was kind of the start of UFC versus Ngannou. And a lot of people, including myself, even though I love the UFC, I love watching it, I want it to succeed, I want it to stop making stupid mistakes, you got to root for Ngannou. You know, he's been through so much. He's the true underdog. And Dana White, I really don't like how he didn't wrap the belt against for Ngannou. I really don't like that. I get you don't like him, but Dana's just such a crybaby. I really don't like him, and I think the sport will be better when he's not in it. Maybe a hot take. It could be worse. Who knows? I just don't like the guy. But yeah, he shuts up Dana White. I forgot who the favorite was. This was a very hard fight. I think this may have been a pick'em. Ngannou, he shows up injured, one knee. He fights anyway. He's down 2 rounds. Ciryl Gane is up. And it looks like it's over. Everyone thought if Ngannou wins, it's going to be in the first 2 rounds, or he gets 50-45. And he comes out of nowhere, starts wrestling, ragdoll Ciryl Gane. Both guys had a little bit of beef. I think they trained at the same team, so that was interesting. I know Chael Sonnen always says this was the biggest fumble by the UFC because they didn't promote the fight correctly. I guess they didn't want it to sell well, which is so stupid. But yeah, Francis Ngannou takes the fight, 1 knee. The wrestling, I get a lot of people don't like wrestling in MMA, in the UFC, which is stupid. But this was so entertaining because it was so shocking. It was such a close fight. Ciryl Gane, it could have gone to him. A lot of people think he won. But it was so great to see Francis Ngannou kind of beats the UFC, the underdog, and beats Ciryl Gane at his own game. Not really wrestling, but, beats him by a decision. Moving on. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, the rematch. This, I think, has to be the most scripted moment in the UFC. Like, I still can't believe that this is real. I know a lot of people hate Leon because he's boring and stuff, which I get, but and I know a lot of people are fans of Kamaru Usman, oh, I miss the Usman era because welterweight is so boring with Belal, Leon, and it just has boring fighters. GSP was a boring fighter, but with Kamaru Usman, he was the villain. I'm just going to be honest. People are acting like they were the biggest fans of Usman. No one was rooting for Usman in this fight. Unless you bet on Usman, absolutely no one was rooting for Usman outside of maybe Justin Gaethje. I mean, Leon, this was the real life Rocky. It's the greatest head kick of all time. And Usman, he was so... I know he's trying to sell a fight, right? I don't hate Usman. But my God, he was so cringy. He's oh, if you look like me, you dress like me too. That was such a hard press conference. And then that was a funny press conference, though. Usman, I know people say Leon is a cheater. I get he does cheat. But when Leon cheats, he gets points taken away. Okay? So it's fair. Usman was cheating so much in that fight. And he got no warnings. Nothing. No points taken away. It was at elevation. Usman's not his home state, but, around where he trains, he had the home field advantage. Usman, he seemed unbeatable at the time. By the way, a lot of people say, oh, Usman was dominating, which he kind of was, but Usman was not up 4 rounds. People always say that. I hate when they say that. Leon clearly won the first. He lost the second in a very close second round, and then third and fourth, he kind of gassed. And it looked like it was over. You know what I mean? Usman looked unbeatable. This was arguably the best he's ever looked. I'm just going to be honest. He looked amazing. Prime Usman, beating him 4 rounds to none. Leon, he kept on being overlooked, not only in this fight, but just in general. They would not give him his title shot, even though he deserved it. And then he fights Nate Diaz. It's supposed to be a layup. It's supposed to make him, look even better. And then in the last minute, he gets embarrassed, almost finished. And now that's all people talk about. People don't talk about how good Leon was in that fight. And yeah, in this fight, 5th round, it looks like it's over. Leon, they call him Rocky, and the greatest comeback of all time. I mean, Yuri Glover may be a little bit better, but still, this was the most shocking moment in the UFC. And you have it set up with that's not the cloth from which he's cut, and out of nowhere, he gets the head kick. An amazing post-fight speech. Very inspirational. They have the Rocky music playing in the background afterwards. This was just amazing. I was so happy. I hated Usman so much. Maybe that's unfair. Plus, he's on EPO very clearly. And, this is exactly why I don't like Usman, what he's doing now. He thinks he's so big and bad. He's not. He's ducking every contender. This is why I don't like Usman. This was an amazing moment. I don't care if you hate Leon. This was amazing. Every real fan loved this moment. Moving on, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, the first fight in MMA. I picked Alex Pereira as an underdog to finish Adesanya. I got that right. Again, the press conference, I'm going to leave you frozen like Elsa. And he was coming off of the most boring fight. Not that I've ever seen, but arguably, against Yoel Romero, that was even more boring. Adesanya, he's just a boring fighter. I don't care. And in this fight against Cannonier, he was so unlikable against Sean Strickland, all that stuff. Then he comes out, I forget if it was The Undertaker. He had some sort of crazy walkout. It was really cool. He comes out with Cannonier's ashes, and he puts on a snooze fest. And then he has so many cringy lines. Cringy against Pereira in the press conference. He comes out, he's winning the fight. It's like, we're going to have this guy's champ forever. He seemed, even though he was losing some fights arguably, he seemed unbeatable because the judges kept on giving him the decision. And out of nowhere, 5th round, Pereira's down. He gets the comeback TKO. Absolutely crazy. Alex Pereira came in, saved the division, and it set up for a massive rematch, which Adesanya won in crazy fashion. And right as the fight seemed over, Pereira comes back, gets the KO. It was absolutely insane to watch live. I remember being so shocked at the result. Even though I picked him, I didn't think it was going to be in the 5th round, and Adesanya almost knocked him out in the 1st. Again, crazy. One of the best moments. 2022, I feel like the cards weren't really stacked, but the main events were crazy finishes. That was a crazy comeback. Moving on, Curtis Blaydes, Jailton, Almeida. Had to throw this in there. More recent, Almeida was coming off of one of the worst 5-round fights I've ever seen against Derek Lewis. He not only could he not submit him, that's one thing, right? But he would get on top and he just would sit there. He would do no damage. Like, you could throw strikes on the ground. He's clearly on sauce. I don't like hate him as much as other people, but you got to go with Curtis Blaydes. He wasn't a massive underdog. It was like a pick 'em, but he's a likable guy. You feel bad for the guy. He should have got a title shot earlier in his career. And yeah, this was great to see. Again, out of nowhere, Jailton Almeida, I think, stays on the single leg, and he just gets demolished with elbows. This was amazing to watch. I feel like everyone was so happy in this moment. Moving on, Alex Pereira, Jamahal Hill. I don't hate Jamahal Hill as much as everyone else because, yeah, he's delusional, but it makes it so much more entertaining when he loses. This picture is crazy. This fight, UFC 300 main event, wasn't really happy that this was the main event, to be honest. Pretty disappointing, but regardless, this fight, it caused a massive crash out from Jamahal Hill. The aftermath was hilarious to see. Hill doing the fake love touch, and then, he tries to rub his chin or something. It was hilarious. All that trash talk he put aside. He was doing so much in the press conference, which I liked. That press conference, the 300 one, was awful. Jamahal Hill made that press conference. The reporters were awful. So I respect Hill for that. And then he gets knocked out in the 1st immediately, and he gets emoted on. Hilarious. Alex Pereira, he does, gets hit kind of in the groin, pushes Herb Dean aside and knocks him out. Biggest card of the year. Crazy moment. And Hill, he just was kind of trash talking like Ilya, but he just couldn't back it up. We'll see how he does against Yuri. Maybe because Pereira doesn't want to fight Ankalaev. Maybe they make that rematch, which would be crazy. But yeah, this was hilarious to watch. Moving on, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. Especially, I think, the first fight. Again, I don't like either of these guys, but this was just the perfect fight. It was amazing. So entertaining. Colby trash talking as usual. And if you compare the first fight to the second fight, how the crowd reacts. In 2019, people really did not like Colby. It was kind of like how people view him now. But in 2021, that kind of was his peak. 2020, where people actually kind of liked him, because the crowd was really getting behind him. In this fight, they really weren't. They were booing him in the press conference. Colby, he's just, both of these guys are cringy, but he just is so cringy that I just can't root for him. He got humbled. he still had success. I thought he arguably was up 3-1. I know a lot of people, again, I haven't rewatched the fight in a while. I actually thought in the 4th round, this may be a hot take, a lot of people say, oh, Usman or Colby had a broken jaw and he still won the 4th. I actually thought that Usman arguably won the 4th, to be honest. It was really close. I still think Colby could have been up, though. You know, he did amazing in this fight. You get the 5th round finish, comeback. Colby is running out of the arena crying. It was hilarious. And yeah, in the 5th round, he gets the comeback TKO. And yes, the ref, I think it was Mark Goddard, whatever, he was awful. The judges were favoring Usman. Colby, I think, was the underdog. But I don't care. That finish was not early. That may also be a hot take. I don't think that was an early finish. He could have let it go on for a few more seconds. But Colby was never going to win that fight because that was a 10-8 round. And the judges already had Usman up, which I don't really agree with. But still, I thought it probably was 2-2. So at best, Colby gets a draw at the absolute best, but it wouldn't have happened. And Colby, you already got knocked down twice. You can't just cover up on the ground for 5 seconds against Mark Goddard, who's notorious for stopping fights early. You know what I mean? I just think that's been a stupid argument. But yeah, this was so amazing to see. Amazing fight. Moving on, Sean O'Malley, Merab. Merab, he was looked past for the title for years. Sean, he had been gifted opportunity after opportunity. He gets the yawn fight, which he didn't deserve. He gets the nod. He gets his hand raised, which I thought he didn't deserve. He fights Aljo, makes him do a short turnaround. I know O'Malley was injured, but still knocks him out. Got to give him credit for that. Knocking out Aljo is crazy. And yeah, during this fight, Sean, Tim, his coach, were being disrespectful the entire build-up, overlooking Merab. And it just was funny at the Sphere to see the UFC plans just not work. It was hilarious. He was kissing O'Malley. He was just humbling O'Malley. Great to see. Even though I did pick O'Malley as my first video, it was the most confident I've ever been in a picking O'Malley. And he did make it closer than people say. Merab didn't dominate. You got people saying, oh, Merab 50-45, which is crazy. But I just feel like I really didn't give Merab a chance, but a lot of people were hating on me. I was happy to see Merab win. He's on EPO, but he's just clearly, I like Merab. He's clearly on the spectrum, with all due respect. I mean, he's diving head first. He's a likable guy. He's absolutely insane. So it just was funny to see him win, to be honest. And yeah, this was pretty satisfying to see. Moving on. Leon Edwards, Belal Muhammad. I kind of was rooting for Leon, even though I like to see Belal win. I don't hate Belal. Belal, again, overlooked for the title for years. Leon, he was treating Belal the same way he was treated before the title, which was crazy to see. And Leon, he needed to be humble. Again, the UFC plans failed in England. He loses in his home country. Crazy. Belal, massive underdog, gets it done. You got the headshot dead, he was saying. And then, I mean, it just was where the UFC came full circle. It was hilarious. Belal Muhammad, he was trash talking, but he backed it up. He really backed it up. Leon could not back it up. I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with this because a lot of people hate Belal. I don't hate him, but yeah, this was also good to see. Belal overlooked for years and gets it done. Moving on, I think that this is the last one. Dominick Reyes, Dustin Jacoby. I like Dustin Jacoby. I don't think anyone really hates him. Another guy that's kind of been overlooked. But Dominick Reyes, one of the saddest careers of all time. If he lost this, he probably would be cut and he would probably never fight in the UFC again. He would go straight to the PFL, lose all of his confidence. He was a massive underdog. Everyone was expecting him to be the second coming of Tony Ferguson. And again, he gets robbed, one of the worst robberies of all time against Jon Jones. And then he fights for the title again, but not against Jon Jones. And he loses, I think, to Jan Blachowicz. Devastating. I think he gets knocked out. And then he's, arguably beating Yuri. Very close fight. And then he gets brutally knocked out. And then he loses to Ryan Spann and gets knocked out immediately. It's all or nothing here. And he gets the first round knockout. He was so happy. And he beats Anthony Smith immediately after on a 2-fight win streak. This was amazing to watch. I feel like everyone was happy during this fight. But yeah, I think those are all the fights I have for this video. I may make a part 2 later down. But yeah, this is what I think. This is probably the most happy I've been, watching fights. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you were angry, happy during any of these guys, if you were rooting for Usman.